Mr. and Mrs. Plumpster were very worried about this. They called in the Dr. Goose, who came along with his little leather bag. The doctor examined Borka carefully and said there was nothing wrong with her, except that she didn't have any
feathers.
A most unusual case, he went on, and he thought for a long time. Then he told Mrs. Plumpster that there was only one thing she could do. She must
Knit some feathers.
knit some feathers.
Knit some feathers.
So Mrs. Plumpster got out her knitting needles and set to work. Of course she could not knit real feathers, but she made a kind of grey woolen jersey as much like feathers as she could. When she'd finished, she called Borka and tried it on her. Borka was delighted and flapped around with joy, because she'd always been rather chilly at night. A bit like you, Hen. She went and showed the other young geese, but they just laughed at her. This made her very unhappy, and she went into a patch of tall reeds and
Cried.
Now by this time the other young geese were learning to fly and to swim properly, but Borka did not like joining in because the others teased her, and so she got very behind with her lessons. Nobody noticed that she was not attending. Mr. and Mrs. Plumpster were far too busy. Borka did try to learn to swim, but whenever she went into the water, her jersey took such a long time to dry that she soon gave up. By now the summer was almost over, the weather was getting cooler and the geese were becoming restless.
What's restless?
Meaning they were a bit like this, they were sort of thinking, I think we ought to be going now. I kind of think we ought to be going now, because they migrate. Remember I told you, remember I saw those big those birds in the park when I first came here? And I thought, well, maybe they're just getting ready to migrate and they all gather together first. And then one day they fly off thinking, okay, it's too cold here, we go to a warmer country. And then they come back again, like we read. Then in the spring they'll go back to England, but they're thinking to leave England and go a long way away. Now, but then they go to a warmer place because it's warmer and easier to find food. They don't like it in the snow, they can't find their food. The Plumpsters began getting ready to leave. They covered their nest with twigs and rushes to keep it safe through the stormy winter. They come back in the spring. Then one day it became really cold and wet. The geese shivered and knew it was time for them to go. They chose one wise old goose to lead them, and they all flew away. But Borka did not go. She couldn't fly.
No.
Instead she went and hid and watched them leave. Nobody noticed that she was missing. They were all too busy thinking of their journey ahead. As the geese disappeared into the grey sky, tears trickled down Borka's beak.
Oh, she was crying.
She did not know what to do. It was drizzling, and she wandered off hoping to find a dry place for the night. It was already getting dark when she came to a line of boats moored in the estuary. Borka chose one that had no lights on board, and she walked up the gangplank. This is the plank going up to the boat. She was just going down into the hold of the boat when there was a loud bark. A dog came rushing out, which gave Borka a terrible fright. But the dog, seeing it was only a goose, stopped barking and introduced himself. He was called Fowler. Borka explained that she only wanted to stay under cover for the night, so Fowler showed her into a part of the hold where there were some old sacks for her to lie on. She was so tired that she fell asleep almost at once. Looks a nice cosy place, doesn't it? He was a nice dog. Now the boat, which was called the Crombie, belonged to Captain McAllister. Late that night he and his mate, whose name was Fred, came back and they decided to sail early in the morning before it was light. Fowler forgot all about Borka. He was still asleep in the hold. It was not until they were well on their way that he remembered and told the captain. Well, well, said Captain McAllister, a goose on board. She'll have to work, you know, her passage, if she's coming with us all the way to London. Borka was soon very friendly with the captain, Fred, and of course with Fowler. She coiled pieces of rope with her beak, picked up crumbs from the floor, and helped in any way she could. In return, she was given plenty of good food. At last, the Crombie steamed into the Thames. They were nearing London. Captain McAllister began to wonder what to do with Borka when they got there. He thought, oh dear, what will we do? He decided to leave her in Kew Gardens, which is a large park where lots of geese live all the year round. When they came to the place where the river flows past Kew Gardens, Captain McAllister lifted Walker over the railings and put her with the other geese. She was, sorry to say goodbye to her friends, but they promised to come and visit her on their next trip to London.
Yeah.
Now the geese at Kew did not mind that Walker had no feathers. There were already so many strange kind of birds.
I think that is
That's Captain McAllister waving goodbye. That's Fowler the dog.
Yeah.
So there were all kinds of strange birds in the gardens. Nobody laughed at her grey woolen jersey, and all the geese were very friendly, especially one called Ferdinand. And Ferdinand cared for Walker and taught her to swim really well. Now, do you know, she's still living there happily, and whenever Captain McAllister and Fred and Fowler come to London, they call in to see her. So if you're in Kew Gardens at any time and you see a goose who looks, well, somehow different from the others, it might well be
Walker.
the end.
Oh, I like that story.
Yeah,
That's a
me
nice
too.
story. But that was so sad she didn't have any feathers.
Yes.
Now I want it again.
Yeah, that's a surprise. We need to